Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Another episode of Environmental Social Justice. I am your host, 𝑤𝒐𝒐, and I have both of my hosts today, 𝑗𝒊𝒏𝒈 and Joy Langford. So thank you guys for showing up. I appreciate that, and I love you. And today we welcome Jessica Aldridge back. She is the Director of Sustainability and the Zero Waste Programs for Athens Services and a repeat guest. So thank you so much, Jessica, for coming back.
Yeah, it's good to be here. Excited.
Very enthusiastic. But today we're going to talk about garbage yet again. And I know it's not all of us get excited about this. I'm sorry, Joy?
Trash talk.
Trash talk. That's exactly what we do. But today we're actually talking about the big green bin. I have mine here. This is the little kitchen pail. And a lot of people are seeing this nowadays, and they don't know what it is or what to do with it or why it matters. So today Jessica is going to educate everybody on what the giant big green bin is. So Jessica, could you start off with what is it?
Well, there's the giant green bin that's outside of your house where you take all the organics and you place it in that container. So you're either going to have what we call a dumpster, the big metal ones, right? Or you're going to have a cart. It's the one with the wheels. It's made out of plastic. Mostly the single family dwellings are the ones that usually have the carts. But a lot of the multifamily and commercial businesses might have carts for their organics as well. State law is mandating that the organics be green or have a green lid. And if you have an old container, they don't have to change those colors out for a few more years. But if you do get a new container, the container for your organics is going to be green or it's going to have a green lid. Some cities or waste haulers, Athens, we call a waste hauler. It's hauling your waste, it's hauling your recycling, your organics, all that good stuff. Some of them may separate the food from the landscaping waste. So you might have two different containers for food and landscaping waste, and you'll have to follow the instructions of what your city or your waste hauler says. For Athens, we can put all the organics together. And when I'm talking about organics, I'm talking about anything, the putrescible matter, the things that are going to break down, the stuff that was created from the earth, going to go back into the earth in a very short period of time. And, it's all of your food. So your kitchen scraps, your scraps for meats, dairy, eggshells, coffee grounds, all of that stuff. It's not just limited to what if you were creating like a compost in your backyard, and there's limitations on what you can put in your compost in your backyard, depending on how hot it gets, or if you have a vermi composting situation with like worms. There's certain people that don't want to use, given their process, don't want to use like citrus because it's not really great for the worms. So, but for this, what we're supposed to take per state legislation, SB 1383, Senate Bill 1383, it's all food. Then there's food soil paper, 100% fiber-based food soil paper, and that's paper that has specifically been used for food and that has been soiled by food. It cannot have any coating on it, any liner, or any mix that is petroleum based, or bioplastic based, meaning that it says that it's made out of plants, but it looks like plastic. I don't know what the hell on here. It's made out of plants, but it looks like plastic. This is made out of plants, but it looks like plastic. This stuff cannot go in your organics container, especially for Athens Services, but mostly for all other waste haulers as well. And so you'll see fiber-based material that will have like a shiny coating or liner on it, but that's considered bioplastic. And if it says it's made out of plants, it's considered bioplastic and can't go in there. Same thing with anything that's wax. So 100% fiber-based food soil paper, and then landscaping waste. So your branches, your leaves, your grass, most of that stuff. The one that we don't take, most waste haulers don't take, is palm fronds and the succulents. And the palm fronds, it's much bigger issue than the succulents, but the palm fronds, they're just really fibrous. And even if we're shredding all of that material, it still doesn't break down in the compost situation. And so It's still required under SB 1383. Cities are still figuring it out, but it's not going into the landscape organics container at this time. But
Yeah.
then you were talking about like the other containers. That brings us to, our little kitchen pails.
Pails.
Like, how do you actually get those food scraps and that food soil paper? This is food soil paper. It's a lid for a coffee cup that is made out of 100% fiber-based material, not plastic. I usually have more examples, and I realized I took all of my trash examples to work. So I'm limited to these 2 items in my house.
Not a terrible thing. Totally cool.
Right. I realized I needed more trash in my house this morning.
Not something everybody says.
I need my box of trash.
So, Jessica, what the bin that you just held up? What are some? Is people get really concerned about the smell.
Oh yeah.
And we talked about this a little bit before. What helps with the odor and the smell are the bins that they're making now more lock sealed proof, so that you're not really dealing with the aftermath around your house or any sort of gnats or
bugs.
Yeah, I'll talk about that right now. And then we probably need to get back to the concept of how do people get these things? Is everyone getting them? What are the best ones to get? That sort of thing. So they're all designed different. People can, they might get one from their city, they might get one online, but they're all designed different. And some, if you're going on to a major online outlet to order your stuff, or if you're going to a retail shop, may do your research to figure out what's probably best for you. There are very good looking ones of these, like metal with, charcoal filters at the top and stuff like that that can help with smell. This is just a plastic container. It doesn't have any holes on the top, and I'm very much one that doesn't like the holes on top, because when you have the holes on top, you create you add oxygen to the pile, and you start to create sort of a aerobic situation, which can cause it to even sweat more and maybe potentially create some of those odors that you're mentioning, Joy. When it comes to odors, there are different things that we can do. One, this shouldn't be sitting full with stuff. I got some stuff in here. It shouldn't be sitting full with stuff in your kitchen for a long period of time. You should take this and dump it into your green organics container, right? If it's the cart,
preferably on the outside of your house, like on the
those containers are supposed to be on the outside of your house. You don't want those carts on the inside of your house. And so you're going to be dumping it. If it's a single family, you're probably going to be dumping it into a cart. If you're a multifamily, you might have a dumpster, you might have a cart, and you might be walking it down downstairs, right? To get to that place. You might have, there's a lot of, we can talk about later, there's valet services that multifamilies have incorporated. But for Athens Services, in most of our cities, we're able, and this isn't the case for all waste haulers, most of our cities, we can use bags. If you're in a city that you can't use bags, you'll know, because you'll get the outreach and education material for that. And that's the choice of the city that we're in and the franchise agreement that we have with them. But if you are using a bag, the bag has to be clear so that we can see the contents through the bag. So it can be a petro-based bag, or it can be one of those plastic compostable bags that you can use, but you got to be able to see the contents within the bag, because when it goes up on our line and we need to rip the bag open, we need to know that we're ripping something of value and not going to be ripping a bag of trash and then accidentally mixing that contamination with the rest of our food waste, right? Our wasted food, as I like to say. So bagging it is one option to control that. Making sure that you're emptying it quite often. If you have things that are going to smell more than something else, and that's going to come down to like your bones, your cheese, your half-eaten hamburger or something. If you have room, and I wouldn't say I don't have a lot of room in my freezer, but these are some tips for people. This thing's not going to fit my freezer. But if you have room in your freezer, you can have a tiny little container for when you have those meats and those dairy and all of that stuff, and you can freeze it. So when it's trash day, you can take that little container and dump it out into a larger container. That's for people who are really dedicated to this, right? And those people exist.
They do. I have friends
They
that do it.
exist. The other thing that you have to rinse also this container with
Yes.
water every single time you dump it. I take my hose, I rinse it out. It's good if you rinse it with soap. I don't. My container doesn't smell, and it doesn't. I also don't have. We'll talk about the potential of vermin. I don't have that issue, and I have lots of crazy critters around my house. You can also. This helps with the ants as well. This is the one thing that I do.
Yeah.
You can't put any chemicals that are you can't put chemicals onto the organics because you don't want that to go into the organic pile, the compost pile, right? But you can put something that's natural. And the thing that I've noticed, because California, for some reason, we love ants here. We have tons of ants, and the ants like to get into our houses, and they like to get into our apartment complexes, and they come from nowhere. And you have this line of ants that you're fighting for like 2 weeks, right? Ants don't like Castile soap. And so this is Dr. Bronner's Castile soap. You can get it from any grocery store. It's concentrated, and I put a little bit of it in water, spray bottle, and this is what I have under my sink. And every time that if it's the summer and it's a little bit hotter, right now I'm not doing it. I don't need to, but in the summer I will put my organics in the container and then I spray. And that's all I do. And keeps them down, keeps the ants away. They don't like it. It also helps with the smell.
Yeah.
Some of the other things that you can do is sprinkling baking soda into your container after you empty it. And then you can also, if you feel like it's going to get a little smelly and you're like, I'm just really lazy today and I don't really feel like taking my stuff out, you can sprinkle the top with some baking soda to absorb some of those odors as well. So different ways to absorb odors.
I think Joel's about to have a conniption fit.
Joel's not going to be doing
this. So I want to walk through this whole thing right now because there's a lot of stuff which I just find very contradictory. So I get the whole purpose of the composting. I get that. But now we're getting a new plastic bin. We have a second plastic bin that goes under the cabinet sink. The bins that we currently have are being taken away. So we have all this plastic right there. Then we've got talking about putting plastic bags inside the composting thing so that way those can be ripped apart and thrown away. Plus we're in the drought, so we got to rinse these things out. And I'm just looking at this whole chain right here, and I'm like, I get the purpose of the composting. It's all the other crap that
it's the methodology you have a problem with.
Yeah, it just seems like none of it. It's like we don't want to use plastic. Here's another plastic bin for you.
That's a good point.
Bag. Like it's like, and then I'm like, wait, this just makes no sense.
Great. No. Don't use those plastic bags because you shouldn't. You don't have to. I have never used them. I will never use them.
But people will, like you said, people
and they will because they want to. But that ends up being their choice and the way that they want to manage these organics. So we're going to make it easier for them. Yeah. We don't want the bags. It would be so much better if we didn't have them. Right. The amount of methane that is coming out of the landfills due to the organics that are going into them is a heck of a lot worse than the fact that you used a plastic bag.
I mean, just look at
30% of all human-related methane emissions is coming from the decomposition of organics in a landfill. Plus these containers. So if we're going to recycle, why the heck are we recycling anything? If we're going to recycle plastic bottles and HDPE and all of that stuff, why are we recycling at all if we're not going to turn it into another product? And so these products are made out of recycled material. So the carts that the rolling carts that you're getting, if you don't already have it, because state law with AB 1826, most places were supposed to already have those organics containers anyways. If they didn't, they weren't in compliance with that state law. Not for the single family already had to have those carts anyways. It's just now that you can put the organics in it. The commercial accounts were supposed to already have those organics containers. Now you can just put the organics in them. So those rolling carts, those plastic ones, are made out of recycled content. And so are if you buy them specifically with the recycled content like we do, then they're going to be made out of recycled content.
So what's happening to the carts that are being taken away from us? Like, are those being recycled? You
The
see
ones
what
that
I'm
are
talking
like
about? This
broken
whole
down.
chain
Yeah. No, they're definitely being recycled for sure.
Okay. That was
Some of them, if they're still usable, are sometimes being repurposed into things. The city of Los Angeles, and I think maybe Long Beach does it. Don't quote me, but they turn them into water capture systems for if they're usable. If they're not usable, that's really good plastic, and that's HDPE. From what I think that is. I think it's number 2. That's getting recycled.
I do want to touch on with the methane, just so everyone understands just how much methane there is there. When I started my first job ever, I was out in the field as an environmental consultant. And the job I had was going to landfills, which were usually golf courses that they just built the golf course on top of the landfill, and they had the vent shafts all over the place. Yes. Most golf courses in the East Coast. Yeah. And I'm walking around with something called a photoionization detector. I'm sure nowadays it's like this big, but before it was the size of a suitcase. And it will detect methane gases for the lower explosive limit. That's exactly what it sounds like. You don't want this blowing up. So you put the PID down there, it would detect whether or not it was at that lower explosive limit. And quite often the little alarm would go off, meaning, yes, you have a lot of methane gas coming out. What do people do on golf courses? Smoke cigars. So this is kind of important that people pay attention to this. It's not just, methane gas going in the atmosphere, terrible for the environment, way worse greenhouse gas than anything else, but it's also explosive. So we need to actually pay attention to these things and get this out, get it composted. And we need the fresh soil. We need the nutrients. So that's
Joel's point too. You don't have to get one of these. You could use your old Folgers container with a tight sealed lid and use that. You don't need anything new to collect your organics. You can just use what you have, or you can be crazy like me and stick stickers all over the top of it.
Well, I know Williams-Sonoma makes a really pretty one. It's either Williams-Sonoma or Crate and Barrel. They make a really beautiful ceramic one with a nice lid.
I'm going to send one to Joel.
Yeah, I'm not buying that. No spend money on that. Come on, it's going under a sink. Let's be honest with each other here. I don't need something pretty under my sink. I guess, but you see what I mean? It's like, so for the normal person, like it just seems very to get like told, oh, we have to be recycled, we have to be green. Here's something new that's plastic for you. Use the water when we're in a drought to rinse it out every time. Like
it's not a huge amount of water. It's a little swish dump. That's it.
But you're talking about millions and millions of people doing it. Don't forget that it's not just the 4 of us on the screen. It's millions of people doing this daily. So it's like, so it's like you think about it and it's like just from that level, you get the purpose of it, but then you hear about what has to happen. You're like, well, this just makes no sense. It just sounds counterproductive.
Well, you can use that swishy water and dump it in your back garden if you don't use any soap.
I dump it on my plants. Every single time I spray it twice with my hose outside and then I dump it on my plants.
Yeah.
So,
I'm just saying
and they have to be watered.
Like you see how it could be viewed as what? Yeah.
I mean,
I think we can view that with almost every little thing. Oh, I don't want to use reusables. I would rather use tons of plastic disposables because it's so much better to burn fossil fuels and disrupt frontline communities with potential virgin plastic because we're in a drought. Come on.
But I'm just saying, that's going to be the argument. You know that argument is out there. And so
not all arguments are correct.
I'm not saying I'm not saying it.
Jessica, what are you in Athens doing to create the education behind people using it? Because this is a big educational process as well.
Yeah.
I'm a little overwhelmed myself as to try to figure out how, as I'm listening to you talk, how I can make this useful in my household. How much trash, how much organics, because I don't cook that much. Each of us have our own different story. But what are you guys at Athens trying to do for the educational component to make people feel like this isn't such a daunting task?
Yeah. Exactly. And you hit it nail on the head. Not everyone's going to participate and everyone has their own priorities, right? We're all doing things in this world in order to survive. And where are we able to address certain things? Where are we able to expend our energy? And where is it most appropriate in our life? And so for Athens Services, we understand that. And we know not everyone's going to participate, but we want to try to get the information out there and make it as easy as possible. So with, and that's a whole scope of strategy that, we do in order to try to get this out there. So not all of our cities have very few of our cities are actually providing the little kitchen caddies under our contracts with them. It's built into the contract. City of Los Angeles, it's built into the contract. We're providing kitchen caddies. Some of our cities they provide the kitchen caddies themselves outside of Athens, but maybe we help distribute those caddies. So first thing is, we have recycling coordinators that are going out to all of the businesses. And let's just focus on multifamily residential at this moment, because the recycling coordinators aren't going out to single family and knocking on the doors. But some cities do have that. They have consultants that are doing that. So for our multifamily residential, we're reaching out to the property managers and we're saying, hey, this piece of legislation exists. This is what your city is specifically saying, because every one of our cities is a little bit different. They may have a letter. They may want them to start now. They may want them to start, I don't know, in a couple months, whatever it might be. And, this is the language of the law. Here's how we can help you. We created for multifamily, through my department, a multifamily residential organics manual. And that manual for the property managers to try to make it as simple as possible. So if they want to be really invested in the program and they're like, well, I need to email my tenants and I need to know that they're doing it and I need to post a poster, we created all of that. So in this manual, we have the handout for the residents, which we can actually print and provide to the manager a lot of the times. We created a bunch of email templates about how to communicate to their customer or to their tenants with some language that they can, switch out if it works for them or if it doesn't work for them, right? We created even a survey if they wanted to understand how it's working for them. So we created a survey and said, hey, here's 5 different links of different online survey things that you can use. We have a residential handout. I think I mentioned that. We have a recycling cheat sheet that's double-sided with the what goes in each container on the backside, what is hazardous waste, what's electronic waste, how to dispose of that correctly. And we have signage that we provide for all of our customers, for multifamily commercial customers, that has like a laminated coating on it, and we go through their actual facility, their site. This applies to all commercial type of accounts. And we say, this is where we think that your containers need to be. This is where we think that you need to put up signage. Oh, you have a break room or you have a community room. Here's another place to put up signage. We have newsletters that go out, and we encourage our property managers to post those in our commercial accounts. Then, in the recycling coordinator, they're going and making these visits. They are then telling them, they're right sizing them. They're saying, hey, you have to implement the organics if you haven't already, but you have a landfill container and recycling container. Maybe we can increase your recycling, reduce your landfill, because we see that there's recycling in your container and you need more recycling, less landfill. And then because you're not going to have, 40% of your material potentially is organics, you're not going to need 40% capacity on your landfill-based container. So let's reduce that the frequency maybe, and let's get you in organics so that we can right size the account appropriately. So this isn't, such a, shock to the system that you have this new container, a new truck, and a new route, and all this stuff that's coming to collect this container, right? We want to make sure that they're right sized, and then walking through that location and making sure that they have all of what they need in order to make the program appropriate. Then if the property manager's like, yeah, I'm totally down on communicating this to my residents, which a lot of the times I can tell you, we've had so much success with property managers.
Oh.
Even to my surprise, I was like, they're reaching out, they're asking to be on the program, they're asking us to come and do tabling events and be there to talk to their tenants, to go door to door, which when we were doing our pilot programs, door to door is one of those things that didn't happen quite often. They didn't want that. And now we have property managers that are like, please just go door to door. Come between the hours of this and this, please go door to door and knock and leave outreach material and tell people how they can subscribe. If we are in a situation where, a city where we're giving out caddies, we even have a flyer to where the property manager can post the flyer. It's got a QR code and the website, plus they get the link in the email that they're going to get from the property manager. and it tells them how to reserve the pail. So we're not going, if we're in a city where we're giving out pails like City of Los Angeles or West Hollywood, we're not going and just dropping off pails because not everyone's going to participate. So we want people to reserve their pail. We want them, like in West Hollywood, they come to a table, they pick up their pail, they, you know, and we walk them through the process of how to use it. We tell them how to get to our website, where we have a lot of information on our website specific to just utilizing this pail in the organics container. And you know, City of LA, if someone's like, come and do some door knocking for us, go through and visit all the customers, we're not leaving the pail in front of the door, because if we left the pail in front of the door, chances are 40 to 50% of those pails are going to end up in the recycling container. And to Joel's point, that's just a waste of resources. It's a waste of money. It's a waste of plastic. It's a waste of everything, right? Yeah. The energy, the water, the embedded value that went into that product. And so we're not going to just willy-nilly give people pails, because we want to know that they want to actually participate in the program. And then we have our online resources. We have I would say it's athensservices.com/food. And that has a video of my face telling you how to use the kitchen pail. And has, you know, the tips and the resource, some of the tips that, you know, Joy, you had said, how do I keep this thing from smelling? We have a lot of tips on the website about that. What can go in the container, what can't. And then we also have our What Goes Where guide, which can be accessed really easily if you just go to canirecyclemmy.com. And, or if you go to our website, it's up in the right-hand corner, you can click there. You pick your city, if you're single family, or if you're if you're commercial multifamily, and it has 400 guide items that tells you exactly how to manage that material in your stream. So that was something that, you know, my team, we dedicated a lot of time to make sure that project was available to our customers, and we're extremely transparent in that, telling them what's best. Like, yeah, you could recycle it, but did you ever think of maybe reusing it or pushing it upstream? Here are some ideas. So we have a lot of those type of resources, and continuous education. All of our education is, you know, we're bilingual education, specifically Spanish, English, Korean, Russian, Armenian, traditional Chinese. You know, we're just trying to make sure that we have as much of the outreach material available as possible, and then consistently going back and checking. And we're just finalizing a video, and this is for restaurants. But we know that we can't be at these locations every single time they get a new employee, right? And restaurants have a lot of turnover. So we created a 6-minute training video that we're going to be sending out to all of our edible food generator accounts to say, hey, put this in as part of your training, as part of your onboarding, and then part of your retraining that you may do, like every 6 months or every 12 months. And so we're just trying our best to make it as easy as possible and give people the amount of resources that they need. And when something pops up and something's not working, then I'm going to take that in consideration. You know, how do I communicate that? You know, that the things that Joel and Joy, you're addressing, you know, how do I communicate those concerns within the outreach and education that we have to provide?
Can I just jump in? Hold on, Joy. Just to put things in perspective for people, because you are providing a ton of information to people and resources and education. And there are going to always be people say, I don't want to do it. It's inconvenient. I'm not going to do it. So let me put something in perspective. There are other cities like Tokyo, Singapore, the entire country of Finland, Sweden. They have about 6 to 8 separate bins that you have to separate your waste into. And it's not a matter of, we'd really like you to follow these guidelines and rules. It's, if you do not do this, you are heavily fined. And we're talking not just like $20, $30, we're talking hundreds of dollars of fines. So if those cities and countries can do this, we should be able to do 2 bins, maybe 3 at most. It's not really all that difficult. So, especially with the amount of resources that people like Jessica provide to everyone in every language imaginable. So it's just wanted to throw that in there. So when people say, well, that's just inconvenient for me, we're making it super easy.
Yeah, and some cities are, I mean, all cities are supposed to have compliance regulatory standards for Senate Bill 1383. So every city is going to be a little different in what if you contaminate your container, what the cost is going to be, and how you're going to incur that. And you know, a resident is, from a multifamily perspective, is going to be a little bit different, because that's going to go to the property manager, right? For a single family dwelling, it's going to be a little different as well. Usually, all for Athens and for most cities, no one's going to come out the gate after you, you know, right? Because we're all in a learning situation. Heck, we're learning here over at Athens, right? We're like, oh, we used to say that we take this, but now, given like state regulations with bioplastics, we, you know, certifications for our compost, we can't take that, right? And so it's usually like, hey, did you know? Here's your, what we in the industry like to call the oops tag, right? It's the red tag. You can't do that, you know, just so you know, warning, don't do that again. And so usually you get 3 strikes until they're like, hey, if you do it again, I'm going to have to probably charge you. But they come out, the recycling, for a business, they're coming out, the recycling coordinators are, and they're like, hey, what can we do to help you here? Yeah. You know, we see that it's continuously contaminated. Do you want some more training? We can set up some training. What would work for you? You want a tabling event, multifamily, right? How do you want us to help you with this situation? Here are the options that we can provide you. Do these work for you? What can we do to try to make this work for you?
Fair enough. Absolutely. Joy, what did you, real quick, because we have gone over on time. So if you had any more questions.
No. I think we touched all of the key points here. And I'm really encouraged, Jessica, as usual, because I think the world of you, of what you and Athens are doing to really get the educational component out, and the way that you actually are in the communities that you serve. So kudos again.
Thank you.
Always. So yeah, on that, Jessica, thank you so much for your time today. I know that you were crazy busy, so any information, education is always appreciated. You're doing great work. I'm Wendy Nystrom, your host with Environmental Social Justice, with my co-hosts Joy Langford and Joel Vendette. We'll see you guys next time. Take care.